Hello everyone. So the Join Squad September 2017 monthly recap just got released and we're going to talk about it. So the first thing right off the bat is they have this nice little teaser screenshot of the new map Balaiah. So that's going to be really cool. It's the first snow map or like wintry kind of map that we're seeing here. And it's really cool. You can see some of the particle effects too in the screenshot. I'm not sure if they'll be in game and constantly falling. But it looks like there's some kind of snow or rain kind of falling in game, and it'll be the first kind of particle effect, whether it be snow or whatever, in game, aside from the fog. So the next thing they talk about is system wise. They're adding the territory control game mode. So they already have territory control in squad. It's not really played too often. I'm sure not many of you know it even exists, but there's a Sumari territory control game mode, which was not really successful, and I think they're revamping it. As you can see here, this is very much like a dynamic, fluid tug-of-war kind of game mode, where you have a center line, and then you still have to capture areas. However, this time they generate resources, and you have to fully control areas that are generated. And they have to be connecting. So like this one, for example, they're owned by the previous team, but they don't generate resources because they're cut off from the grid. So this is going to be really interesting to see. I always thought about, what happens if they changed AAS and made it so instead of losing tickets when you took a cap, you gain tickets for the caps that you held. And this looks like a really, really cool way to make games more dynamic, have them last a little bit longer, and we'll see what happens. Because, yeah, you gain tickets over time now instead of losing them. So this is definitely going to make for some longer, more dynamic matches, especially since the maps are going to be more open and more fluid. Like, every area is of importance, not just, point A or point B or the third flag. Every single point can either give you resources, take resources away from the enemy, connect resources, or cut off resources for the enemy team. So this is going to be a very, very fun play mode. I'm definitely probably going to love this and want to play this pretty much exclusively when it comes out. But we'll see what happens. I'm very excited. The next little system that they're showcasing is the staging area. So instead of the, 2-minute round timer at the start where you're sitting in the squad screen and you're just looking and talking to each other, they'll now have a staging area where you can go to before the game begins and allows you guys to gather, go over plans, stage vehicles, get everything ready in game instead of just, at the squad stream or screen and talking to each other. We kind of do this in squad ops. You've seen us do this before, the briefing stage, where the platoon leader will grab all the squad leaders, do that brief, and then do a full platoon brief, stage all the vehicles, and then set for live. So it's cool to see this coming to vanilla play, because I think it'd be really, really helpful to new squad leads and even experienced squad leads to help get the team organized. Then they're going to showcase, once again, more teasing. They're going to show us more Bradley vehicles and just more vehicles in general. So a lot of detail on this Bradley. There you got all the bolts. Everything's done really, really high quality, which is per usual for Join Squad's content. So really, really cool to see the Bradley in here. Something a little more heavily armored and well equipped than the Striker right now, as this thing has like a cannon on it instead of the 50 cal crows on the Striker. So really cool to see an IFV coming to squad soon. The PKM is also modeled and going to be brought into the game, which is another machine gun. They're going to be doing this one before the PKP. So the PKM will come out first, and then they're going to work on the PKP and roll those out to the Russians. Whereas before, Russians are just using the current machine guns. Now they're going to be using the PKM, and then eventually the PKP once that is fully modeled and ready to go in game. So cool to see the PKP and PKM are confirmed to be added eventually. M1 Abrams. Everyone's always talking about the tanks. We saw more helicopter stuff in the last previews. Now we're seeing more tank stuff, so it's cool to see that they're working not only on just tanks at a time or just the helicopters at a time. Looks like they're working at both the tank assets and the helicopter assets at the same time. Does this mean we will get them at both at the same time? I'm not sure. I sure hope so. But yeah, we'll see what comes out first, or if they come out together. Personally, I'm looking more forward towards the helicopters, because those will really change the dynamic of games more than I think tanks will, because of the extra mobility the air asset will provide. But tanks are definitely going to be crazy as well, because those will be pretty hard to take care of. Whereas right now you can take out strikers, BTRs, and such with infantry assets. I'm interested to see how much more resilient these tanks are compared to the current vehicles in game, and if the infantry can still disable these without the use of you know, the hat kit or other infantry assets, or if you really do need another armored asset to go toe to toe with these vehicles. So that'd be extremely interesting to see that dynamic. And then yeah, the Belaya First Look, which is the one of the new maps, which is the winter map in Eastern Europe, and it's gonna be pretty interesting to see a different terrain. Because one thing that I'm thinking about is the camos. They're definitely gonna have to change up the camos because the U.S. right now only has the desert camo or the multicam, and I don't know how that's gonna fit in here. So neither can I imagine like insurgents fitting in here. So maybe this is gonna be a Russia and militia map only, or they're gonna rework all the camos to allow those other factions to play on this map. But we'll see. I'm pretty excited to see a snow map in a different kind of environment. Looking at the layout, I like how it's linear. We have a lot of open maps currently, like Kohat and Gorodok and things like that. But seeing a nice little Korra-esque layered map is pretty interesting. Some of that linear map design. But as you can see, it's pretty large with multiple different areas, such as, you know, village, farmland, military outposts, industrial, semi-urban. So there's a lot of varying terrain here to work with. But I do like that how it's kind of more linear than the others. It allows us to get, you know, more variety in a game instead of just every map being open and wide. This one's going to be a little bit more restrictive, and we'll see how that plays in game. So I'm excited to see this. Really cool shots. I hope that they do add the textures, or not the textures, but the particle effects for the snow and stuff. I'm interested to see how they'll pull that off, because the only thing that we have right now is the fog. So if this happens, maybe we'll see rain and other kind of effects, maybe ash and dust and stuff like that. So really cool to see weather being added in. And then Fallujah is being worked on under Oxy. So that's really cool to see. Oxy makes great maps. He made the Goro map and stuff like that. So really excited to see Fallujah. Fallujah is going to be awesome. I mean, Al-Basra was crazy and it was awesome, but having a full city map, like urban combat, like pretty much for the majority of the map on a larger scale, that's going to be epic. I can't wait to see that. I'm definitely really excited for Fallujah. But that's pretty much it for this recap, a pretty short recap. I did notice that they didn't really go over stuff that they had previously gone over in the last recap, like the animation update or anything, or the, you know, the not the attachments, but the bipods, or the helicopters. They went over new stuff, which I do enjoy, instead of just a, you know, recap of what they did last month. I hope that means that they're still working on it, of course, which I'm sure they are, and they're just trying to, you know, showcase new cool things that they're developing and working on as a team. But other than that, like, I'm really excited for the new game mode. I think the new game mode is definitely a highlight for me because it adds so much more replayability. If you can make matches more dynamic and make them more different every time, and have them even have a different outcome every single time you play, which, I mean, looking at this hex structure for both sides, like, there's many different ways this game can play out instead of just the standard flag system, because on the flag system you kind of limit the places that engagements are going to happen just naturally based on that that flag spread. But for this, you have to have like a full-on frontal line, and then, you know, sneaking behind enemy lines, how that's going to work, and trying to cut off resources, and then also getting, once with helicopter comes in, how that's going to affect things, and, you know, setting up, like, capturing three sectors behind enemy lines, cutting off their supplies, and that's going to be crazy. I really can't wait for this territory game mode. That's going to be really cool. And then, of course, the vehicles. Who doesn't like the IFVs and the tanks? I mean, God, like, just I'm thinking about like a tank rolling through Fallujah in like an op, and like you have to defend the tank in the op, and, you know, there's all these windows and doors and stuff like that, and like heavy armored assets and cool stuff. It's going to be challenging to see how these heavier assets are going to deal with the urban environments, especially since there's no real destructible environments in Squad. So it creates a really interesting dynamic where the vehicles, where in real life would be able to blow up a building and kill everybody inside, in Squad you can hide in those buildings almost indefinitely. So I'm curious to see what they'll do to kind of counter that, whether they'll allow the damage from the HE to go through the walls and damage people inside, or if they're going to keep them like that, or if they're going to make some form of destructibility. I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting to see, though, because definitely, like, if you have one little shack and a hat guy sits in it, he's almost invincible from the heavy assets, and he can just pop out of a window and shoot. So it's going to be interesting. I think my bet is that they're going to have those HE rounds from the vehicle go through walls, and the damage will go through walls. I'm still waiting for them to do that for mortars, because if they can do that with mortars, then, you know, just sitting inside indefinitely, well, infinite amount of mortar rounds land on your head won't be a thing anymore. And I think that's definitely something that I would like to see in game. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this recap. Short recap, but a lot of thoughts in this current recap, a lot of ideas and anticipation. I can't wait for V10. Squad's been getting a little bit stale for me because we've been on V9 for quite some time. So hopefully V10 is right around the corner. But as always, guys, we're going to be checking up on the squad recaps and squad updates when it comes. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to check out Humble Monthly for over $100 worth of games every month for just $12. You'll also get 10% off their entire store, fund a charity, and support this channel all at the same time. Check it out in the description below.